All right, we'll start work session here. This is a work session with the Assembly and Harbor Board. And we won't be taking public comment. But might be a chance to pass the microphone around. So we'll go ahead. Are you ready? Our engineer, Dick Somerville, is going to do a presentation on Scow Bay haul out project.
Okay, thank you. And good morning, everyone. And thanks for coming out this morning. I know it's a little early to have kind of a public meeting like this, but hopefully you've got all the coffee and you need and you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm Dick Somerville. I'm with PN&D Engineers. We are the lead engineering firm. We're the lead consultant on the project. And we've been on this project for a number of years now. And we've taken the design to about a 65% design level of completion at this point, and we thought it would be time for the community leaders to kind of see what we've been up to. So we're going to give you a progress report today. And at the end of the presentation, there'll be questions and comments, and hopefully I can have a few answers for you. So with that, presentation is probably 30 or 40 minutes, something like that. And we'll just get started. A few photos here of just what the existing facility looks like. You can see the old deteriorated ramps and so forth. The yard needs some work on the lower right. You can see that it's not graded well. It needs surfacing and so forth. And this is the whole beach area, real flat, kind of mud flats out beyond kind of the gravel zone. A little bit of a ramp there that Mr. Murgis built a number of years ago up against the breakwater. Oh, see, why is this not advancing? Oh, here we go. Well, in terms of our project lead or project team, Petersburg Economic Development Council and the borough have been working on this for years, and they're the owner's representation. Both Liz and Glow have been the leads on the project. PN&D takes our direction from both Liz and Glow on, what to include in the work and so forth. PEDC has had a steering committee who's been reviewing plans for a number of years. They're still actively involved. And then Liz and Glow put together a local panel of experts in May, just earlier this year, and kind of helped out. We call them subject matter experts. They're folks that have either used a boat haul out or operate at the haul out by actually pulling boats out of the water or provide service. A great panel of that helped us kind of formulate some of the solutions here. Like I said, PN&D is the lead designer. We do civil, structural, marine, and geotechnical engineering. We do have some help with mechanical and electrical engineering, and that's Respect out of Juneau. Both Ben Haight and Doug Murray are on our team, if you know them. And then we have a little building on site, and so we needed an architect, and so Wayne Jensen at Jensen Yorba Wall is providing that design. So here's the group of our steering committee that was so helpful for us. Besides myself, Glow and Eddie were there from the harbor, Bob Martin, Taylor Pilar, Raleigh Cook, John Murgis, Craig Evans, Andy Kiddums, Joe Sisney, Niall Thomas, Derek Gibb, Lad Norheim, Scott Pilar, and Brian Newman, and then of course Liz. So that's who, kind of went through when we went from 35% to 65%. That's the group that helped us steer the project along and formulate the design. So today we're going to go through a number of slides, like I said, maybe 25 or so. We'll talk about what the purpose of the project is, and we'll review the scope of improvements. We'll talk a little bit about what PN&D is doing for the community. We're going to go back a ways in time and take a look at long-term master planning for Scow Bay. And then we're going to take a hard look at what we're currently designing for the site development for the boat haul out. We'll review the 65% design status and our current cost estimate. Very importantly, we're going to review what funding sources there are for the project, and we'll go through the environmental permits and the NEPA documentation. NEPA is National Environmental Policy Act. Whenever you have federal funds, you have to do an EA or an EIS or something like that. This is an EA that we have to do, so that's what the NEPA documentation is. It's a process for sure. And then we're going to review what the final steps for the project are and what the schedule is. So what is the purpose of this project? Just fundamentally, we want to develop a functional boat haul out work yard at Scow Bay Turnaround. In the improvements that we're going to include in that are a versatile concrete haul-out ramp at 6% gradient. That's a real important part, and we say versatile because what we want to be able to do with the ramp is to have several different pieces of equipment be able to operate and haul boats on the ramp. So the ramp itself has been designed for a number of haul-out equipment. So we'll have a guide float alongside the ramp, and that's for queuing vessels as they get ready to get hauled, or if they, when they go back in the water, they can stay at the float for a little while, but it's basically an alignment float. The project has got wind and wave protection out of the southeast in the form of a rubble mound breakwater. There'll be a washdown pad with wash water treatment facilities. We're expanding the boat yard from 2 acres to 4 acres. We've got stormwater runoff with discharge treatment in the yard. It's important in order to get the permits to operate. You have to be able to control stormwater runoff and treat it before it's discharged. We'll go through that a little bit. And then there's power, lighting, and water services throughout the yard. There's a little utility building on site that'll have a restroom and also has a single shower in there. There's a real small shop that basically just kind of has some equipment for the washdown pad. And then there's a little office space. So those are the basic improvements. There's obviously a lot more detail to that, but that's what the scope of work is at this point. In terms of what does P&D do, everything you see in white, we have been contracted for, and it's substantially complete. The things on the bottom are work that we have yet to complete. But years ago, we completed the site investigations. That's topographic and bathymetric surveys. Topography is the uplands work, bathymetry is the offshore work. We performed the geotechnical investigations, first with test pits out on the mud flats there, and then off the RB with some boreholes. That work is done. We've gone through project scoping and planning and been in front of the public many times to kind of formulate a solution for the project. We call that scoping. We've turned in 35% design documents, and more recently, 1st of September, we turned in our 65% design along with cost estimates. And I can tell you over time, costs do nothing but go up, and they have certainly in this case. And then we're doing the environmental assessment. I talked about that. That's the NEPA document. And then we're doing all the permit applications primarily through the Corps. We also are applying for the conveyance of additional tide lands and submerged lands from the state of Alaska to the borough. That application has been in for a year and a half. And we're going to talk about that here shortly as well. So all of that work you see there is substantially complete. What we need yet to do is the 95% design review and then final design. The final design will be stamped documents ready to go out for bid, and we'll have an updated engineer's estimate. We'll help the borough through the bid phase assistance by helping contractors understand the work, clarify the work, issue addenda documents. If there's questions that need to be clarified formally, we'll be available to do that. And then, of course, contract admin and construction inspection. So those 3 things are down the road for us, but not too far. So just to get a perspective here, here's the aerial vicinity. You can see Metcalf Highway, Scow Bay Loop Road here. DOT maintenance facility is here. And by the way, we are doing no work on the DOT maintenance facility. There's no encroachments within those properties. All the work is outside of that property. Here is the fire hall right here. This is the breakwater you can see. This is the existing ramp. That ramp actually extends all the way out to here for when they used to haul the seaplanes out. It goes to a -3. It's kind of been silted in and so forth, but the top of the ramp has been improved over the years with various ramp planks and stuff from other projects. And this is where the operations occur right now. To kind of frame it in, there's a stream here. There's a stream here. Those are both catalog anadromous fish streams. There's not a lot of productive fish in there, but they are cataloged, and so they are constraints to the project in terms of what we can and can't do. Right here is this boundary here is the current borough tidelands parcel. And then right in here, in terms of these contours, this dark contour, this is the zero tide. So that's mean low water datum, that's zero tide in your tide book. These white lines, every white line you see gets 5 feet deeper. So there's -5, here's -10, here's -15, here's -20, and then eventually you're out in the narrows. So that just is kind of the framework of what's currently there. And just kind of take note of where the breakwater is. It's here relative to the Tidelands boundary, ATS boundary. So it's right in here. When you look at a boat haul out facility or any marine facility, you want to make sure that what you're designing now will also fit your plans for the future. Scow Bay has been a topic for, well, I've been involved for 3 decades now, doing various layouts out there for future moorage as the downtown facilities fill up. Community needs to expand somewhere. Scow Bay is the logical spot. So we've done a number of layouts over the years on this. This one was done in 2022 when we were trying to entice the Coast Guard to come here. But anyway, the basic message here is that there is a long-term plan for Scow Bay. It does include a moorage basin, a dredged basin, some new floats, a new drive down, some more parking, and then the boatyard. The boatyard is going to be in here. And the breakwater that goes along with the haul out that's going on right now ends about right here. So there will be a future extension of that in here. And there it could have a sheet pile bulkhead for heavy loading operations and so forth. So it's a big plan, an expensive plan. It's a long-term plan, and you want to do long-term planning when you have to go in right now and build a piece of it, because we don't want to interrupt a long-term plan right now. So that's the reason for this. And again, there is no development up here within DOT's property. At one time, there was an idea floated that, boy, that would be great if we had all of this area. We could have a really good pad, but that never did pan out, and that's not currently the plan. So this is kind of a long-term marine facility master plan for Scow Bay. So what is the current project? This is a rendering of that. Here's the DOT parcel here, and everything over here is DOT. This is the fire hall here. The idea is to extend a fill offshore. Here's the old ramp that's being operated off of right now. This would be all new fill. Here is the new versatile concrete boat or haul out ramp. It's on a 6% grade, and that grade is, like I say, so that we can operate several different pieces of equipment to haul vessels out of different sizes. And I've got a couple slides on that here coming up, so I won't get into much detail, but basically all the haul out operation goes out here. Here's the -5. We looked at that before, so we're going out to -5. There is a little thickness to the ramp, 2 or 3 feet, so we're going to be above grade at the bottom. We will have some scour protection at the very bottom of that, so it doesn't erode away. But basically, you're going to have an operational ramp that runs from a -2 elevation at finished concrete elevation up to a +23 up here. This is 400 feet long. This is the breakwater. It's all armored, so it provides protection out of the southeast and southwest onto the site for operations in here. In terms of the yard, these are all workspaces. These are designated workspaces. You'll pull the boat out, you'll put it in the yard, and there'll be work done in these spaces while it's in the yard. This is not a storage area, it's a work yard. So there's a variety of different spaces here. There's 22 vessels that are shown in this illustration. You might be able to tuck a few down in here as well, but we can easily get all the equipment in to haul in and haul out and park boats into their workspaces in this arrangement. Like I say, 22. These larger spaces here are 40 by 80, so you can get a full limit seiner in there, be able to get the equipment alongside and so forth. So each of these spaces here have power. The larger spaces have actually 3-phase power, 60 amp, 208 volt, 3-phase power. The other smaller spaces have got 120 and 208 volt single phase power. There's enough power here. There'll be a single pedestal to run power to two boats. So there's a whole bunch of power pedestals. They'll be strung along the backside here and on the outside over here. There's water service. There's year-round water service with yard hydrants, and they're self-draining, so they don't freeze up and so forth. And there's about 3 of them here. So there will be some hoses being run. We didn't run them for every pairing of boats, but we have 3 along each side. We also have at the washdown pad here, we have a 2-inch yard hydrant for heavy flow, heavy volume washes. We also have another yard hydrant right in there. The idea is to take the boat up into the yard. It'll come to the washdown pad here. It'll wash down. The effluent will run off the pad into the utility building where it will be treated. There's pre-treatment equipment within this little shop area, basically to take out dissolved metals and so forth out of the water. It then gets dumped to a lift station and then pumps up into the highway for further treatment at the borough's sewer treatment plant. In this plan, you will see that there are several lease areas. This one here is Taylor's. Taylor Pilar has this one. Over in here, John Mergus has this right now. That will be changed because we've got boats over part of it. So there'll be a lease lot here. There'll be another lease lot here for service providers. And so there is some existing equipment that's in the way here that likely needs to be relocated here in the next 6 months or so. But that's basically how the facility operates. There'll be some more detail as I get into this, but there is a 40-foot access corridor that needs to be maintained in order for DOT to have access into their facility, and that will be maintained. So again, no work on DOT's site. If you were to plot this from a bird's eye view, looking down into the Narrows, that's what it would look like for phase 1. This is that ATS boundary. I know it's a little hard to see here, and we made this nice and yellow that it stands out, but it's all going to be the same gray color as everything else. It's going to be gravel and concrete, but that's basically how far you'll see it stick out. Right now, the jetty comes out to right about here. The end of the existing jetty is the top of the new ramp. So we're moving offshore 400 feet. In terms of what it would look like, this is just a similar facility that we did maybe 15 years ago in Auk Bay. It's a nice wide concrete ramp here. It's got the boarding float for queuing and so forth alongside. It's a heavy facility, heavy timber facility, I should say, with heavy steel rails and so forth, and nice wide operational ramp on the side. I want to talk a little bit about the versatility of the ramp because it's important. It's been important to the steering committee. They have made many suggestions on the type of equipment that could be operated here, and was hopeful that the design could accommodate that, and we have been able to do that. So this is Petersburg Marine. This is John out in the water here on the existing ramp. He has a 45-ton trailer that's been derated. I think it's 32 or 35-ton operations at this point in time. But he goes down into the water with his self-propelled hydraulic trailer and takes the boats out, and that will remain. That will continue on the new ramp. The new ramp is flatter than what he currently operates off of right now. It should be a little bit safer for him, but because it's so flat, he will need to go out into the water a little deeper to get the boats onto the trailer. The next thing we've been looking at is to upgrade the hydraulic ramp. This is a 100-ton self-propelled hydraulic trailer. This is also designed to operate on the ramp, but it has a 6% gradient, maximum gradient requirement because the vessels are so heavy. You don't want them to slip off the trailer. This is about $1 million piece of machinery. This one is made by Conolift. Again, it's very similar to Petersburg Marines, although it's much larger, and it needs a flatter ramp. And the ramp that we have designed can operate this, is designed to operate this on the ramp. So you can just kind of see the size of vessels that come out with this. There's been another discussion about increasing the capacity to 150 tons. Allen Marine over in Sitka operates an amphibious boat hoist. This is, the illustrations on the top is their facility, and they haul their catamarans out that are 32-foot beam and are need up to 150 tons. But most people are very, have seen a lot of this sort of boat hoist operating off a pier. They do make them to be submersible, and this piece of equipment can also operate on the ramp. It's nice and wide. The vessel comes to the inside rather than the trailer underneath, so it's real wide in here. Depending on, that could be site specific to the fleet. The Allen Marine submersible or amphibious machine is 37-foot clear on the inside. It's about 46-foot wide out on the tires. That's why that ramp had to be designed so wide. We're 54 feet clear, so that gives you 4 feet clear on to the shoulder of the ramp on each side. But this runs down into the water, drops the straps, the boats come above and they lift it and they bring it out, and you can have 150-ton capacity here. Other things about the, yeah, come on in. Other elements that we'll review here is this washdown pad. This is concrete washdown pad. This one is similar to the project we did in Hoonah about 15 years ago. The Scow Bay facility is 30 by 80. Hoonah was larger than that, but it's basically a heated concrete pad to allow operations all winter without the effluent freezing up and freezing up to go into the treatment facility. So it just keeps it ice free and so forth. It's a hydronic system. It'll be with an electric boiler that goes in that utility building. So that's where all the heating elements will be. But that's what we have planned, 30 by 80. So in this case, both the hydraulic trailers would go right up onto the slab. However, the amphibious hoist will straddle it, and so it'll be to the tires will be to the outside. This is the little utility building. This is the one we did over in Hoonah. It's a CMU building, which we have not designed here. We're going to do a stick frame building with metal cladding and so forth because costs have risen so high. This is just, and CMU is all imported concrete masonry units. So we've tried to economize on the design, but it's similar size. It's 24 by 40, just a small shop area. It's not intended to do vendor servicing or anything like that in there. It's just a shop area for the boiler equipment and to service the equipment that's in the yard. There is a small office off one corner. The other corner's got a little restroom in it with a shower. So that's what you see in the site plan. Any boatyard needs to have the proper stormwater runoff controls in order to get the permitting approved. A couple of little features here. We're going to have a hydrodynamic oil water separator. That's what you see in the lower left with the lid off of it. So all of the runoff on the site will go through catch basins and manholes. They'll take the grid out of it. The effluent will continue on and ultimately end up running through the oil water separator to remove oils, and then it'll be discharged back into the Narrows. Where it discharges into the Narrows, this is similar to what we would be doing, but this is much larger. This is probably a 4-foot diameter pipe or 4 or 5 or something. We're just going to do a 2-footer, but this is the only photo I could find. This has got an insert check valve in it so that when it discharges, the tide doesn't flush back in here, go into the oil water separator and get it all disturbed again. So there's a little check valve insert. So it's a rubber check valve that goes into the end of the pipe. These are all things that are necessary to get the stormwater runoff permits from Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. Looking a little closer at the 65% design. So we kind of go from conceptual level with color and photographs into hard engineering design. That's when it kind of turns into black and white. And that's what most engineers are noted for, is black and white. And this is our survey. So we've done the bathymetry offshore, we've done the topography onshore. This is part of our survey package. This is the existing ramp that runs out to -3. Here's the jetty that runs here to about a +3. Here's the zero tide again, right in here. Here is the tidelands parcel that the borough owns, has been conveyed 10 years or so ago. There are a number of lease parcels here. This one right here is Raleigh Cook. Petersburg Marine, John Murgis has this one in the uplands right in here. There's another one here for when he built the gravel ramp. So this is a temporary lease here. Taylor is in here, right in here. Yeah, here it is right here. Looks like you're over a little bit, Taylor. Anyway, that is that parcel right there. Here's the firehouse. Here's the stack connexes. Here is the tower, training tower right in here. So that is what is the existing condition, and DOT up above. Here's DOT's parcel right through here and then on up. No improvements up in here. When we overlay the site design on the existing ground topographic and bathymetric map, this is what it looks like. Here is the jetty that runs out to here. You can kind of see it in the background. It ends right here. It just shows you, and here's the top of the bank right here. All these tight contours in here mean this is the top of the bank. So we're moving offshore here a couple 100 feet. The top of the new ramp starts about, about where the end of the existing jetty is right here, and then runs offshore 400 feet. So that kind of puts it into scale. The rubble mound breakwater will extend just beyond the tip of that, maybe 25 feet or so, to provide protection out of the southeast and southwest. The development of the site, as you can imagine, is going to impact the lease lots. The borough has been trying to plan for new lease lots. This is Taylor's here. There'll be another lot here, and then there'll be another lot here, and there'll be a small lot in here. So these are going to be for service providers that want to work on boats when they're in the work yard up in here. So that is the site plan. We've got a lot of utilities going into the site. This is one illustration of them. I talked about all the stormwater runoff. So here's a catch basin, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. So the site will be graded to drain into these catch basins. There'll be a new base of about 18 inches of 6-inch minus crushed rock on the existing pad. We'll take off a couple feet of the mud, get rid of that, and replace it with 2 feet of 18 inches of 6-inch minus, and then another 6 inches of 1.5 inch minus crushed rock, and everything will drain in here. So everything comes out here, and then it discharges through the oil water separator and goes into the narrows right out here and in as deep as we could get it. There is water being, well, let's talk about sewer first. So for sewer comes off the wash down pad. When you're operating and washing, you'll be closing this drain here. This drain here is when it's raining only and you're not washing. So the water from there goes into the storm drain and runs out. When you're washing boats, you will close that side and you'll open this side, and the effluent will go through the building. It'll be treated. It'll go to a little lift station right here, and it'll be pumped up to the highway into a service connection right here or thereabouts. So that's the sewer system. The water system, there's water on site already. It was put in 20 years or so ago. You can see it right in here. If there's a fire hydrant for the fire hall, there's a service to the fire hall here, and this is a 12-inch ductile iron line that comes in, and there's a valve here and a T. So we will take off from there, run water into the site. It'll have to go through the building. In the building, it goes through a backflow preventer, so there's no contamination of the public water by any means, by any operation that happens in the boatyard. So we'll have that safety equipment in there. And then after it goes through the equipment there, it's distributed to the yard. So it comes out here, and these are the little spots where we have yard hydrants. They're up in here and they're up in here. So that's the water and the sewer and the storm drains. There's currently not in the plan to provide sewer service up to the lease lots, but I know that's been a discussion. Maybe it evolves, I don't know, but right now that's not currently included in the design nor the budget. This is just a section through the ramp. This would be the rubble mound breakwater, and it would also have a slope over here. So it's got all armor rock protected from both sides, northerly and southerly. This is the concrete ramp on the surface. This is the float on one side, keeps boats off the rocks, keeps them aligned, so forth. There's 54 feet from the edge of the float to the edge of the concrete on this side in case the community decides to use that submersible boat hoist that we talked about. And then this is the section on the end of the ramp. The very end going into the narrows has some scour protection right in it, so it doesn't unravel and you end up with a hard edge there against the concrete. Oops. All of this costs money, costs real money. This is kind of the sad part of the whole thing, is that none of this stuff is cheap anymore. Costs when we first started this were half or less, but over the years things have gone up, as you know and have felt in your own businesses. So construction costs for the upland expansion, water, sewer, and electrical utilities, storm drains, area lighting, the rubble mound breakwater, the concrete ramp, the boarding float, wash down pad and utility building, and all the treatment system, we're estimating at 12.4 million now. With any project, you want to have some contingency. You do this with your own projects. This is for unforeseen conditions. You get into construction, something isn't as intended. You need some contingency. You need a little bit more money than just the bid price. So this could be for a lot of different things. It's unforeseen conditions. There could be some scope improvements while the contractor is on site. You might say this is the time to do some more things. So we're using 10% now. That's not a bad contingency. It's not a huge contingency, but the fact that we're at 65% design means that the design is fairly well developed and we're really honing in on what the actual costs will be. So there's that. Petersburg Municipal Power and Light has to provide a utility service to the site for all the power pedestals, the high mast lighting. I think I mentioned that we had high mast lighting. I don't remember, but anyway, we do have high mast lights that will illuminate the area so you can work at night. All of that costs real money, and Carl's been working with our electrical engineer, Ben Haight, on how to route the electrical service to the site. Right now, we're estimating that could be about $125,000. Compensatory mitigation, that is a permit requirement. We are filling on tidelands. There have been some impacts to the environment as a result of doing that. When you do those sorts of things, you have to pay for them. So compensatory mitigation is what that is. It's $80,000, and I'll talk a little bit about that some more when we get into the discussion on permitting, but compensatory mitigation that has been selected here is a mitigation bank. So first of all, when you work in the water, you have to avoid impacts to the environment. If you can't avoid them, you have to minimize them. You can't just go build the Taj Mahal out there. You have to build the minimal amount of facility to satisfy your operational requirements. Ultimately, there are impacts on most marine projects. So for those unavoidable impacts, you have to compensate the federal government, and that's what that's all about. So there are some more engineering phases that have to be, well, basically 100%. This is already done, but we included in the estimate the cost of engineering to date because we're trying to get that reimbursed through the federal grants. That's about $500,000, and that will get you through the bid phase. There'll be construction administration and inspection. Those are all expensive. The total project is now around $15.1 million. So big number, makes you gulp a little bit. And, you know, we've been trying not to do too many things or add too many things to the project because these costs are so high. So who's paying for it, and, you know, where's the money coming from? And that's what this slide is for. Liz Cabrera has been an amazing advocate for the community. She has worked hard on grants for many years, and she's been successful. USDOT MARAD, which is the Maritime Administration, the U.S. Department of Transportation, has just provided Petersburg with a grant of $8.9 million. That's federal money. The Denali Commission has also provided $4.1 million. And so that's the bulk of the money that's going to fund the project. There's also a revolving loan fund that's low interest, partially forgivable. I don't know all the details about that, but it's for clean water and for drinking water type of improvements within the state. That's a state loan, low interest. I think it's 1 or 2%. Liz can correct me on that. And I think the forgivable piece is $500,000 or thereabouts. So that is part of that money is going to be used for some of the storm drains and utilities and so forth. And the borough and PEDC is contributing 1.1 million. So we have available project funds of 15.35 million, and we needed 15.1, so we're there. We're ready to go. We just have to finish the design. We have to get the permits, and it'll be ready to go on the street. That's not to say that we're 100% done, but we have really, I'm not going to say we, I'm going to give Liz the credit, has done a lot of work to bring these funds to the community. So there is work left. We have to get through the permits, and these are the major permits, and this is the NEPA documentation I was talking about. The Army Corps Section 10 and Section 404 applications are been under review. They've been submitted a while ago. They won't make a decision on that until MARAD completes till we complete the EA for MARAD, and they've written off on the project. So we've been working with the National Marine Fisheries Service for formal consultations under the Endangered Species Act and the Essential Fish Habitat consultations. Those are all complete, and we are in compliance. The project is in compliance, and we have record of that. The compensatory mitigation plan that I just spoke of, the $80,000 to purchase it through a mitigation bank, has been reviewed by the Army Corps of Engineers and has been approved. So all the borough needs to do is cut a check. ADEC 401 water quality certification is complete. That is the state's review concurrently with the federal review under Section 404 for the discharge of fill within on the tidelands. So that is complete, and the project is found concurrent. Now, Alaska Department of Natural Resources Tidelands conveyance, that is in process. So I showed you a slide that showed you where the tidelands boundaries were. We are over the top of that and beyond that towards the Narrows, another 150 feet or so. Today, in fact, and the tidelands conveyance for additional tidelands has been underway for a year and a half. The public comment period actually ends today at 4 o'clock. There's been a preliminary decision by the state to convey those tidelands to Petersburg. That is their findings. They will go through the public comment, and they will issue a final findings and decision within the next 3 months or so. Once that is in place, then it allows the borough to enter the site for construction. It's not the end of it with DNR. There's still additional work that needs to happen in the form of a tideland survey. That could take a number of years to complete. But if you get through the FFD phase, you're allowed to occupy the site. And so that's coming right up. The draft NEPA environmental assessment is in PND's hand. We have some assistance with another consultant on that. So between that consultant and our own environmental scientists, they are wrapping that up this week, and we intend to submit that to the borough next week for review. As soon as the borough has reviewed that, it will go on to MARAD. MARAD, as you recall, is providing $8.9 million for the project. They have to be in concurrence with the EA, and what they need to do is they have to write a FONSI. What is a FONSI? Well, a FONSI is a finding of no significant impact. So all this environmental documentation goes through them, they review it. The final EA is written based on their comments. The FONSI, which is the lead federal agency, is written and signed off on, and we're expecting that within 3 months. So those are the most significant things. They've been underway for quite some time, and there's a lot of documentation on the environmental side that's been going on for over a year or so. There's a few minor permits, like a building permit and so forth. We need to get those yet, but those are minor. So these are the major permits and the major hurdles that we've been working on. We talked a little bit about what is that DNR tidelands and submerged lands conveyance parcel. This here is the existing tidelands parcel. This parcel here encompasses, while we were at it, encompasses the master plan. So it runs beyond the phase 1 improvements of the boatyard and incorporates the future marina and dredging and the breakwater extension. So this is the boundary of the conveyance parcel that we are seeking right now and expecting to have shortly. So that will set up the community for, in the long term, for the overall master plan as well. And it's almost done. So what are we doing now? So we've talked about a little bit about this. I put some scheduling notes to this, and I also put a big asterisk right here. And the reason I did that is because the federal government isn't working right now, and they're not really answering the phone on all of these issues. So could there be some delays? Maybe. Possibly, likely. I think this is kind of a best case scenario is if they go back to work right away, they pick up the projects because we have been dealing with them regularly. They know where we are, but we do need to finalize the EA. The MARAD needs to issue the FONSI. We're hoping to have that done by the 1st of February next year. Department of Army permit, that will not be issued until MARAD issues the FONSI. And then when the mitigation is complete, we say that can be done within 2 weeks. Really, the Army's already reviewed the permit and have already commented on it. Their only comment they have is they're waiting on the FONSI. We have to complete 95% design. There'll be another level of review locally, and then we have to go to 100% bid documents. We would like to be able to do that concurrently while this other stuff is going on, and so we can complete that while this is all being done. It kind of all funnels in on a date here. So if we can get that complete, then MARAD will issue and execute a grant agreement with the borough to authorize the funds, the $8.9 million. So all of this needs to be complete before the grant agreement is signed. And then also we need the final findings and decision for the DNR conveyance. We're hoping to have that by March 1st. If that all aligns, project will be ready to advertise and award a construction contract. We're giving it 6 weeks. So by mid-April of next year, it could be under construction, and we're estimating about a year to complete it. So it could be complete by Little Norway Festival in 2027. So again, I just want you to note this caveat because there could be delays if the federal government remains shut down for some period of time. So that's what we're doing next. So I guess I went a little longer than 30 minutes, but I would be happy to clarify anything I can or answer any questions or take your suggestions on how to move forward.
Thanks, Dick. Hey, Wally, could you get a microphone just so this can be recorded for the assembly members who aren't here? Thanks. I learned a lot from that, Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Dick. I'm kind of thinking about operating expenses. Once the system is up and running, how many kW is that electric boiler going to be? Because that's going to be a sizable expense heating up that pad.
Yeah,
I wondered if you've considered doing a ground source heat pump to save on the operating expense, because you're doing all that fill anyway. You could bury the heat exchange coils on the beach basically before you put the fill on top, is my thought. So I just wondered about that.
well, it's a good question. and it's out of my field. That's why mechanical and electrical engineers, but I will definitely bring that question to them to see if it's more economical to do that heat pump. Right now, it's electric boiler because that's what we coordinated with the borough, but we never did look at a heat pump. I've got it written down.
Rin, can you get a microphone?
Hi, I haven't been involved in this process at all, and I apologize for not being following it other than knowing it's happening. But I'm one of the many users that like to go down to that area and look at the water. And, it's kind of at the end of our bike path and all. And I hope there's somehow in the design a safe way that people can go in, either on bike or on foot. And also we have a lot of elderly in the community, which I am also approaching, that have done a lot of marine things. And one of the joys of us is, even if we can't participate, is to have a way to observe. And I would hope that there's a space that somebody can come in and park or see, what's happening and kind of be passively involved. And I don't know if you've addressed that or looked at it, or if that's even a possibility or whatever.
Yeah, good question. It might be more of a policy decision for the borough. We're trying to make a secure site for boat operations, and my experience with other operations, both in Hoona and Wrangell and elsewhere, is that they try not to get small vehicles inside there in the traffic because of hydraulic trailer operations. Are moving around, and it becomes kind of a bit of a safety issue. However, that being said, maybe there is a little spot to come and just park off to the side, out of the way, and kind of look over the operation. I know Wrangell is trying to do something like that and have been scratching their head pretty hard on how to actually accomplish it. They have the Nolan Center right next door, and so they've kind of come up with that is the best observation point for them. But good comment, and we can take it from there.
Any harbor board members? This is a chance to talk about these things when we're all together and satisfy the Open Meetings Act. So now's your chance with the assembly. Okay. That's probably even better. What's the next step as far as public input goes between now and 100% design?
This is where we are now. We did have a great meeting last night, kind of a public open house. What you see here are the posters on the tabletop. That was from the open house. We had a pretty good attendance to that, like I said, and we had public comment sheets. We received 3 or 4, I think, maybe, and took in a lot of verbal comments as well. So anybody who wants to comment can certainly get a hold of Liz or Glow, or can fill out the public comment sheet. On there is a mailer. It's addressed to Liz. So Liz is collecting all the comments. When she has those collected, there'll be decisions made on what to do about the comments, and then I'll be informed.
I found them very receptive about comments, and it's a chance to be immortalized in your wisdom if you have any suggestions.
I'll just comment on that in terms of a designer. It's easier to do it early in the process rather than late in the process. So the more suggestions we get now, the better. We've had a lot of suggestions throughout the years. It's kind of formulated the project to where it has become today. The fact that we're not getting a tremendous amount of comments is probably just a testament to everybody's involvement within the community so far.
Just a question. You mentioned that maybe it was sewer and water, or sewer wasn't currently being planned up to the couple of lease sites up there. And I don't know if Taylor, do you have any comment about that, or is that something that? Yeah.
let me just talk to that just a little bit, just because if you're going to do it, and if we're going to run sewer up, let's see, here's the lease lots here. Here's the lease lots here and here and in here. If they're going to be serviced with sewer, the best way to do that is to run some sort of collector along the front of it and then gravity feed it down to this lift station so that we could pump it all up to the highway. But it's several hundred feet from here to here, and we need a gradient on a pipe that will get it down there by gravity. So what does that mean to a designer? That means we need to design the lift station with a deeper wet well so that it can take the gravity flow up from here. So that's kind of a decision that we ought to make. Maybe the decision is just, if not now, plan on it in the future, and we would go ahead and just kind of lower this lift station to be able to take the gravity feed at a later date. If that makes any sense.
No, I'm always thinking about the operation and things like that, and just a reality that, it's all about money. Part of this is, and we've been given a lot of gifts here, and it's thankfully to Liz's hard work that we're here. And building, the best case scenario and putting in utilities for those, for those leases will require some real consideration by who gets those leases and the value of those leases and pricing ourselves out of having, people use the facility. So those are some of those things to consider, yeah, we'd love to have bathrooms at every little one of those spots, and we'd love to have water, but at some point, is one bathroom for that yard enough? And to consider, the cost of those utilities is going to directly reflect the value of those lease partials. And, today, what they're getting those lease partials for is definitely going to have to change, because the value of this whole facility is now going up. And so there are some ordinances that we have in place currently on how the borough leases properties, and it's all based on value of land. And so those utilities that are going in there is going to increase. And so just to make sure everybody's aware, if we go to the extent, it's going to drive the price tag up on everything. So just that, those are going to have to be considered when it comes time to talk about who gets those leases. And just to recognize too, that we've done as a borough, gone the distance on doing marine overlays over there, industrial overlays now in that property, so that there are some considerations on who gets to lease that property and what they do with that. Knowing full well across the street is commercial and industrial, you may see some benefits to those property owners to be able to partial out property. And that's what this is all about. It is to enhance our economic base. And, but those places on site, they're going to be at a premium. And so maybe this is wise to put in those utilities so that we can get top dollar out of those lease partials. So just to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, question is whether those utilities would be essential to any kind of operations that we had planned, to lease there. And I'm not sure whether they are,
There is a little bit of a practicality aspect to this that we ought to consider, because while the contractor is there, when the site, he's going to tear it all up to put in all these utilities, right? All this stuff is going to be all torn up. They won't be putting the finish grade on until that's done. It would be a bit of a shame from a implementation strategy to have it all fixed up nice, and then a year or two later have to dig it all up and feed the piping through this nest of other piping to get to the lift station. So that's just kind of a engineering implementation strategy, so that if there is a decision to be made and the community wants to put the money into the utilities, we could structure it as an additive alternate in the bid in the bid documents, we can do things about it. You can get a price on it. You can decide whether you want it or not to build it. But there's some things that can be done there to give more information to the community on the decision.
Don?
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. It was really good. I got a question on, where the concrete's gonna be, and I know the wash pad's probably gonna be concrete as well. What about wear and tear on the haul out vehicles? I know it's a lot of weight and, I know we're gonna be replacing with 18 inches of 6-inch, I think you said, and then a top dress on top of that. I guess my question is, cause Wrangell's 100% concrete. Would it be worth the thought of maybe a larger area of concrete for less wear and tear on the lifting vehicles?
I mean, I can answer it that way, this way, is that ideally we'd put concrete or asphalt everywhere. It definitely will improve the site drainage and grading and turning and all of that. As the designer of the Wrangell concrete, we spent $10 million on that. And that was when the state had more money in the coffers. And we don't have that right now. But I mean, I agree. If it could be done, it'd be great. If we can get some more money for it, it'd be wonderful. It's not something that's essential. You could operate on a crushed rock right now, and it will be graded and drained, and so it won't rut as bad. You'll probably have to regrade it from time to time, but I mean, the issue, it boils down to money.
Aaron?
I'm going to come over here so I can point at what I'm referring to. So just a couple points. Right here in this corner, I actually have a sewer lift station for the back of the fire hall as well. One of the things I was talking with engineer last night about is if you are going to do that collection point, this pump station is actually starting to fail per wastewater. And so if you are going to do it, making sure that's deep enough, even if you don't initially run the line, so that, we're probably going to tie into it if these other two or other three pieces tie into it. Currently, it comes out of the back of the fire hall, comes over and doglegs over to right on this line. But the other thing I want to bring out is to make sure that the property line is actually drawn on top of it. And so if the intention is to not run anything across, please don't put the property line right on top of my pump station, because I still need that. The other thing is talked with Dick.
Dave's my brother.
Keep wanting to call you Dave. I just want to make sure that I have enough access to get behind the building here. I have a diesel tank that fuels the diesel heater for inside the station. And there is a big drainage field right here, a big grate where it dips in, so I can't tuck in close to the building. And so I want to make sure that I have room to get back here. Other than that, I mean, we are saddened to lose this spot. They have it being graded sometime in the next year. That's going to necessitate the removal of the burn tower. Currently, that is not budgeted for at all in either the municipal budget or in these plans. And so I would include that as a excluded cost right now. That building, the footing of it is actually concreted in, the big I-beams that hold that whole building up. So you're gonna have to chip up all that concrete just to be able to get the building out of there. The connexes, of course, it's easy to move connex, but that building you're gonna find difficulty in. You also have a ground well station here that is no longer in use, but you're probably going to tear that up as well. That's on the other side of the burn tower. If it's sitting right here, right about here is that ground well. There is also, I don't have a confirmed number on how big of a tank it is. Martin Odegaard of Public Works might know, but there is a buried tank here that we used to use for our pump testing long before I was involved. And I think in 2017, 2018, when they called to remove it, they determined it was too big, and so they just crushed it. And in talking with Dick, Says that's probably going to need to be removed if you're moving those big vehicles on it. So that's another expense. Just know that. Those are my points. I just wanted to point it out because this is the first time I have been invited to these meetings. So
Before you run off, you mentioned right here, there's this drain here, and I've seen that and wasn't sure where it went to. Do you know if it just is a dry well that just dumps straight into the ground?
the ground well or the,
No, it's a drain. There's a grate right in the corner there.
I think it's connected to this one that's up by this alcove here. This is a whole drainage field right here, but I do not know which way it runs. That might be a better question for wastewater. I do not have very good documentation on this station.
But that's a stormwater. It's not wastewater, correct?
Stormwater.
Stormwater, yeah. It might make sense to, if it's right here, just to connect it into this manhole right here, and we can get rid of that whole drainage issue and have it run out through this treatment and run right out. So that's just a little piece of pipe right there. That's a good piece of information. Thanks.
Yeah. Because currently, right now, it sits in a pretty big hole. And so I just don't want to be driving through that hole on top of that grate.
Yeah.
Getting stuck. So.
Thanks, Aaron. How we doing? Anybody else? Well, I think that about wraps it up. So thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks, Dick, for an excellent presentation.
Yeah, thanks for the comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again.
Mhm.